Yo, what's good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of VIP Room, episode 21. Bama had to come out today because he's busy, so I brought in my dog G Baby. And we here with from LSU Tiger, tight end Thaddeus Moss. How you feeling, bro?
I'm feeling good, man. Appreciate y'all having me on here, man.
Yeah, for sure, bro. Of course. Let's get started, man. So you was a 3-star recruit coming out of high school. So just a simple question, man. What was your recruiting process like?
Man, my recruiting process was really fast, actually. I went to a bunch of different high schools. I went to 5 different high schools in my 4 years of high school. So my recruiting process started my junior year, my junior year of high school. I didn't go to any camps or any 7-on-7s or anything my freshman or sophomore year, and just strictly based off the film. Because in high school, I didn't believe in the camps and stuff. I believed in your film, doing all the talking, and just going off the film, going off in between the white lines. So my junior season went by. We won the state championship, and my film looked really good on top of my film for my freshman and sophomore year. And from there, man, I think my first offer was North Carolina State, and then from there, man, the offers rolled in super fast. I don't even know how many I had going into my senior year, but I had probably like 25 going into my senior year offers. And then my senior year was just icing on the cake. Pretty much had offers from anybody that I wanted to go, from any school that I wanted to go to across the country. Recruiting process, my dad don't play that nonsense, man. So my dad was like, man, look, I'm not taking you across the country. I'm not taking you to all these different schools. You're gonna pick three to 4 schools, and you're gonna lock in on them. So I picked my 4 schools and didn't take a lot of trips, and he didn't let me commit early. I wanted to commit to Texas A&M early. He didn't allow it. He was like, just wait until signing day to make your final decision. And then, signing day came fast, and I rode with the hometown college, staying close to home with NC State.
Yeah, for sure. You can go ahead, G.
Well, I wanted to ask, because you brought up your dad. I'm pretty sure, growing up, I'm pretty sure, just knowing who he is. Do you ever feel like pressure growing up that you feel like you had to, kind of live up to that, or were you more so like, I'm gonna just do me, make a name for myself? You didn't really feel like that kind of pressure on your back. How was that, like, just growing up, middle school, high school, going to all the different places?
Yeah, the pressure. I'm gonna be real, man. I didn't start feeling the pressure until my first year out of college, when I got into the NFL. Growing up, I didn't feel any pressure. I didn't feel anything growing up because I fell in love with the game of football like a very, very young age. Like playing football in the backyard. Like I fell in love with football at that age, and from there, like you said, the expectations and stuff that comes with having the last name and the dad that I have. My expectations for myself were always higher than what anybody else's expectations for me could be. So so if I didn't meet my expectations, which were already sky high, it doesn't matter about anybody else's expectations. So, like I said, I didn't feel any pressure growing up. I just went and played ball. You just went and enjoyed what I did. Football for me when I was younger was a getaway. It was an escape. So when I was out there, I was just free. So like I said, I didn't feel the pressure until I got to my first year out of college is when I started feeling that pressure. I never felt it in high school, never felt it in middle school, never felt it in college or anything like that.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so you get to college your first year and everything. When you probably because you went to NC State your first year, right?
Correct. Yeah, I went my freshman year. Only 1 year I played my freshman year, and then I transferred.
Okay, so I think everybody has this, or maybe it could be from LSU or NC State. If you could remember in college, what was the hardest workout you ever went through in college?
The hardest workout?
Mm-hmm.
Man, we had a few of them at LSU. We had a few of them, man. I might say either probably our conditioning test, man. Probably like the first year that I did our conditioning test at LSU. Our conditioning test was like 16 30-yard shuttles. So you start at the goal line, you run to the 30-yard line, touch it, and then come back and finish through the goal line. And we had 16 of those. Obviously they're timed. And then after those 16, which I'm not a fan of the shuttles anyways, because it's a lot of change of direction. And it doesn't matter how good a shape you are, your legs are going to be feeling that anyways from you having to bend down and touch the line. So we had 16 shuttles, and then we had 10 110s after that. So probably that one.
Yeah, that's crazy. I'm not gonna lie, that's wild. That's wild. That's wild.
And we're running it down there in that Louisiana heat and everything. So that just adds on top of it.
G, you can go ahead.
Well, so you talked about obviously, kind of those hard workouts. Well, I want to know is like, well, obviously you started at NC State, then you said you transferred. What were kind of like obviously you coming from high school to college, what was it like being in those locker rooms first time? Like, what was, I guess, that moment where you were like, okay, like we're here now. This is a different ball game. Like, just how did that feel, kind of that transition? Because obviously high school and college is different.
Yeah, I would say the biggest transition for me was it wasn't so much from my senior year to my freshman year at NC State. It was going from NC State to LSU, man. Like my eyes were open so big, like that was my biggest, that opened my eyes to everything. I thought I knew so much football wise, but then when I got to LSU, it was like, man, I know nothing. Like this is a football school. We're doing football 24/7 every single day out of the year. But probably LSU. The biggest thing that attracted me to LSU was like, man, the tradition. When you're walking down the hallway, you're looking up on the wall and looking at seeing all those great players that used to play there, like the Honey Badger, just for example, that I grew up watching and stuff. So when I got to LSU and, just being in a locker room and having that jersey on and stuff and just being in the SEC, like I always grew up watching the LSU versus Alabama rivalry game. Like that's like a holiday. There used to be a holiday. Like once a year, man, you're trying to figure out what you're doing for the LSU Bama game. So probably when I got down to LSU, man, being in that locker room and stuff, it was something like I've never experienced before.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Speaking about, you being at LSU, you that year 2019, I just got to ask this too, bro, because I know I went through this my first year in college. How hard were y'all fall camps at LSU?
Man. Our falls at LSU were tough. I'd say the biggest thing of course, it's the weather, man. Like it doesn't matter what type of practice we have. Regardless, we're gonna have a 3-hour, ridiculously hard practice with Coach O. With Coach O running the practice, but it's the weather that makes that makes that what it is. But in terms of the practice itself, our spring ball practices were harder than our fall practices. It's the weather that made our fall camps hard. In the spring, coaches don't care about because we don't have no seasons that we're getting. Like at the end of spring ball, the season isn't starting. So they don't care about none of that. It's hitting drills every single day we're on the football field. It's running our tongues out every single day because we don't have a season at the end of the camp.
Yeah, I can definitely tell that because my pops used to coach at LSU, so I remember them like in 2011, 2012, them fall camps they used to be tired as hell. That shit was crazy though. But you can go ahead though, bro.
So you being at LSU, I kind of want to know, kind of just inside your head. Obviously, you there with the practices. You talked about Coach O. When did you, in your opinion, feel like you knew, more specifically that 2019 LSU team? When did you feel like y'all knew, like, okay, something special could happen here, something's brewing? Maybe it was the season before, because I know, like, you see on social media all the time, people talk about when Joe Burrow took that hit that season before, you know what I mean? So I kind of, you were obviously there. So when did y'all know, like, hey, we could probably really do something here? We could be crazy.
Yeah. Well, we knew that we had some pieces, and then when Burrow came in, everybody. So we knew we had pieces, but going into that 2019 season, there's probably two instances. One instance was in the spring. Burrow just had shoulder surgery, and he wasn't even supposed to be participating in spring ball. But he went out there and was like, no, I'm not going to miss any practices because 2019 season starts now. It starts in all season. So he was out there, and he wasn't supposed to be for a scrimmage, and we had been waxing the defense. We've been waxing them. All spring ball. Coach O hyped up the defense. They got the hitting Burrow a little late after the play, like putting him on the ground and stuff. Mind you, he shouldn't even be out there because he's fresh off shoulder surgery. So Man, Burrow got up and he started the fight. At LSU, we fought a lot, man. We fought almost every single day because we spend. It's like fighting your little brother, man. Because you out there, you're spending every single day with those guys. So Burrow got up and he initiated the fight. And man, he was on the defensive sideline. Man, he got jumped by like 15 defensive dudes. By the time I ran over there and they got everybody off the pile, Burrow was at the bottom of the pile, scratch marks, blood on him, and he was gut punching the person that he was going against. So at that moment, we knew like, nah, because it was a benches clearing fight during that scrimmage. So we knew like, nah, we got dogs on this team. We got guys on this team that don't be going for none of that nonsense, that's here to play some real good football. And then real quick, the second thing was in the off season leading up to fall camp, college strength coaches put you through every single thing that they can possibly put you through to test you to get you ready for the season. Mentally, they put you through stuff. Of course, physically, emotionally, they try to put you through stuff. So the last workout that we had going into fall camp, it was they moved us. We had just a bunch of sprints. He literally just put the whole workout together. So he tried to kill us with the workout itself, and we killed the workout. It was no problem. Then we finished the workout with a bunch of sprints. So usually during that time, guys would be tired. We'd just be having to grind out the sprints. Nobody's talking a lot. We're just counting the reps out, trying to knock them out. Man, our coach tried to, like I said, he tried to come up with the workout to hurt us. But at the end of that, through the whole workout, we were just hype and yelling and extra joyful and counting the reps out. And every in between every single rep that we had, throwing water in the air, shirts off, swinging them and everything. So that's when we knew, like, nah, we ready to go. We ready to really play some football.
Yeah. I could definitely agree. I've definitely seen that before in my lifetime. So I know exactly how you feel. So, another question I asked you, man, when do you think for yourself was like your welcome to college football moment?
Ooh, my welcome to football college moment. Probably. Oh no, I'm sure it's been a minute. I'm thinking back to 2016. I want to say like the opening kickoff of the very first game that I played in my freshman year, which was the first game of the season. We played like William and Mary, I think it was, and either them or Hampton, but I think it was William and Mary. And I was on kickoff return, the back line of the kickoff return, and it's the first play of the game, first play of my freshman season. I'm over there trying to get hype and woo, 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 woo. I've never been on special teams like that before. I wasn't on special teams in high school. Plus, special teams in high school wasn't took seriously. So first kickoff of the season, I went down and tried to kill the dude. I went and tried to lay a big hit, but dude had 50 yards of momentum behind him. And I got flattened. So like my very first play was a kickoff on kickoff return, and I went and tried to kill dude, and he ended up hitting me back like 3 or 4 yards. So mine was quick. I got mine out the way quick.
For sure. GB, you straight?
Yeah. I'm good.
Go ahead, G. Go ahead.
So I know he just talked about like your welcome to college football movement, but like obviously you being at LSU, you're gonna play in big games. You're gonna be on national TV. Obviously, we talk about the Alabama. You in the SEC, so there's gonna be some crazy people you're gonna play. Sure. What do you feel was the hardest environment you had to play in that time frame? Like whether you're like a home game, but like the crowd is going crazy even on both sides. One of your toughest opponents. Like, what do you feel like was the hardest place you felt you had to play?
The hardest place. Maybe for me, probably Alabama, man. Probably Alabama for me was probably the toughest, just because probably Alabama, man. Like I said earlier, going into the game, I was so hyped up that I was playing in the LSU Alabama rivalry. I watched that rivalry for years and years growing up. I watched all the greats at Bama and all the guys at LSU play against each other. So leading up into that game, I think I was overhyped. The stadium was crazy. Like I said, the anticipation going into the game. I think both of us were undefeated going into that game. Man, that stadium was crazy. That stadium was crazy. The locker room before the game, we were dumb hyped. I was probably one of the livest college football games that I played in was probably going against Bama in that 2019 season. So probably Bama to answer your question.
Yeah, for sure. So, you know, just speaking of 2019, speaking of that team in general, you know, because we've had countless debates on this on my show, my college football shows. So I want to ask you, do you personally feel like 2019 LSU is the greatest college football team of all time?
Man, I feel like if we're going strictly off of college, I mean, of course, I'd say I'm a little bit biased. If we're going strictly off college, I would say it's us or it's the 2003 Hurricanes
Or 2000 Miami, or something like that?
Yeah. Miami, the Ray Lewis Miami. Because everybody always just brings up the argument with them is like, man, they had so many Hall of Famers and this and that in the NFL. Man, I think if you wait until 15 years from now, I think our 2019 class has a chance to make some Hall of Fame, has a chance to put some Hall of Famers in there too. But I think if we're talking strictly of college, I would say yes, because I think we beat our schedule, our strength of schedule, the teams that, like I said, the teams that we played. I think we had the most top 10 wins out of any team before. The statistical numbers that we put up on offense. Like I said, if we're going strictly based off of college, I would say yes.
Okay. You can go ahead, G.
So when you think about, like, obviously you playing at LSU with everybody, the Jamar, the Justin, Joe Burrow, all those guys, because as me, just as a fan watcher, obviously in those locker rooms, the way I feel, it was just like a complete turnaround. Like y'all were solid the year before, but then it was just like y'all just a crazy jump from everybody. Like, everybody across the board, it was crazy. And I know you talked about that, the practices that y'all had, and like Joe Burrow in scraps, and that's when you knew you had the dogs. But on the field during the games, what was it about specifically Joe Burrow you felt like the way he took control, or like just because like everybody will be able to tell you Joe Burrow just looked like a different beast when he came in that 2019. So like just being on the field during those games. I know you talked about what it was a practice, but like obviously practice and game time are two different things. So what do you feel like it was in the games that just put Joe Burrow on a completely different level?
I would say it's preparation. That's what leads to him being such a confident player and a confident quarterback and a confident leader of the offense is the preparation that he puts into it. So like for us at LSU, man, our games were, I mean, coach always says you want practice to be harder than the games, of course. I really felt like our practices were harder than our games. Like we practiced so hard, and Burrow was he's so particular and precise with how he watches film, with how he goes about practice and the adjustments. And hey, if we do this, we got to do this. And he talks about everything. So his preparation of the week of practice going into the game is like, man, you already know everybody's on the same page. Everybody knows what we're going to do. We know that if the defense does this is what we were going to do. Like we already knew it. Like there was nothing that the defense could throw at us or at Joe that we weren't already expecting and wasn't already ready for. So I would say his preparation is what separates him and what makes the game day for him so easy.
Yeah, facts. So, you know, again, talking about 2019, talk about how, because that year is just so magical. Just from your perspective, I would probably assume the Natty would be your favorite game, but just what was your favorite game out of that whole season 2019?
I mean, for sure the national championship, man. For sure the national championship. Man, for me, like I said, I was a huge football head growing up, man. I love football through and through, college football, video games. Like I said, watching the rivalries, watching the college football championships. So being on that stage was crazy to me. Like when I went out there for my pregame warm up in the championship game, like it felt like a dream. Like literally felt like I was dreaming, like I was walking on a cloud. Like, man, this is the national championship game. I'm going against Clemson. We're sitting here in the New Orleans Superdome. Was definitely a championship game. The hype leading up to it, how hyped the crowd was, knowing that we were trying to cap off a perfect season, knowing that we were trying to win a championship. Then on top of it, that was probably my best game, man. Probably my best game. You know, 2 touchdowns in the national championship. It all, man. Looking back on that game, man, it literally feels like a dream. Like everything went perfect. Like I said, I had 2 touchdowns. We won. And it was the icing on top of the cake. So for me, it was a championship game for sure.
You can go ahead, G.
So obviously we've talked a lot about your college career. You guys were able to cap off the perfect season, all that. So I want to know what was kind of like obviously after that, I believe you got to the NFL. You also kind of I believe right now you're in the CFL, but you also went to what was kind of like the biggest eye opener when you got there? Like what was like kind of that thing you were like, oh, like maybe you didn't expect, or it's like a real eye opening, changing type of thing.
The biggest eye opener for me when I got to the league was my first year was a COVID year, and I was on IR the whole year, so I didn't get a real good taste of what the NFL was like. I didn't even really practice like that. I would say, man, probably the attention to detail is what the attention to detail that you have to play, the attention to detail you have to have in the NFL to play blew me away. I'll just say that. I'll say that for one. Being at my time at Cincinnati, I had to spend a lot of time with special teams. Being an undrafted guy and being somebody that was trying to make the roster, man, so you spend a lot of time with special teams, and just how much time you have to study just for special teams, how much time you have to dedicate to that, the studying that goes into place, the little, like I said, the scouting that goes into something as simple as a kickoff. Like, man, we could have 3 different returns called on kickoff return, depending on the walk-off of the kicker. So if he walks off back 4 steps and to the right 3 steps, he's going to kick it to the left. So we could potentially run 2 different returns. So just little stuff like that, man. The attention to detail in the NFL kind of blew me away. Like in college, it's like that, but you can get away with a little bit in college. You can get away with a little bit at the SEC. And if you're supposed to be at 10 yards, you can be at 8 yards in college and you can get away with it. In the NFL, if you're supposed to be at 10 yards on your route depth and you're at 8 yards, that's going to be an interception. So attention to detail, man. It's a lot. It's a lot that goes into the just one play in the NFL.
Facts. To go back to a little bit, psychology real quick, because obviously you follow the show, you've been commenting on my stuff. So I just want to ask for your perspective, because you commented on, because you agreed when I said 2019 Alabama is a top 3 team college football team of all time. And I know since you played them, want to see your perspective. So can you elaborate why you think that 2019 Alabama is a top 5 college football team of all time?
Well, I think you can definitely make the debate. Like with me, I have a bunch of respect for the older teams, but that 2019 Alabama team, when you look back on the roster that they had and how many guys they had and how deep their roster was, even the bench guys that they had, you know what I'm saying? Like they still had Will Anderson, which was, a top where did Will Anderson go? What pick?
He went top 3 or something like that.
Yeah, I think he went 3.
So you have all these younger guys that was on the roster that was getting a little bit of playing time that we didn't even know of at the time. They ended up coming out the next year and balling. So you look back on that roster that they had, and they had guys. They had one of the deepest, best receiving wide receiver rooms. I might even go as far to say of all times. I mean, everybody in their receiver room went first round that year. Everybody, if I'm correct, even from the senior to the freshman. They lost to us that year. Did they lose another game that year?
Yeah, they lost to Auburn when Tua got hurt. That's when Tua got hurt.
Yeah. That's like, man, see, like that's the Achilles heel that they lost to Auburn. I mean, that's their Achilles heel. I think if we're going off of film and what, like going off the eye test and talent and ability, I would 100% say that team is one of the most talented teams, top 5 talented teams of all time in college football. When you look back at that roster, man, that was an NFL roster up and down that roster.
Okay, for sure. And then I got one last college question for you, because I got to ask you this. I got to ask you this. Because it was one of my shows. We had a huge debate on my show. But I got to ask you this. Do you think your former teammate Joe Burrow is the greatest college football quarterback of all time?
Nah, I definitely think he's in the. I definitely think he's up there for the conversation. I mean, he had one of the greatest seasons of all time against. He had one of the greatest college football seasons of all time, going against one of the hardest schedules of all time. Like I said, I don't think we had like 8 or 10 something top 10. Yeah, we had 10. We had 10 top 10 wins that season that like no other team has done before. So. For me, the greatest college quarterback of all time is probably Cam Newton. I think that season that he had, like, man, that was Superman. Like, he dominated that season by himself in the SEC West, and nobody nobody else on his offense even got to the league. That's something that nobody even got. I think only one player sniffed the league, and other than that, nobody else got to the league. And like, for me, it's Cam Newton. Man, I think that Cam Newton year that he had where they won the championship, man, that was the greatest. You know, he did just as much or if not more with way less.
I'm glad.
I'm glad to clear that up.
I mean, but Burrow's definitely in the conversation, though.
Yeah, for sure. But when we were having this one thing I always say when we have this conversation, I think degree of difficulty matters. And not to say, because beating 10 top 10 teams is a hard thing to do in itself. You know what I mean? But like Cam Newton, like they called him Superman for a reason. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
Hey, G, go ahead. G, you go ahead, bro.
Well, obviously you play tight end, so I kind of wanted to ask you kind of one of the rules that changed in the NFL, kind of that hip drop tackle. I kind of wanted to get your perspective on that because I know a lot of people are basically saying change it to flag football, kind of because you play offense, obviously you're the one that got to get tackled. So I kind of wanted to know how you felt about that rule change that happened not too long ago, because I know it's kind of it's frustrating a lot of defensive guys.
Yeah, as an offensive player, I'm loving all the rule changes, man. You can't, like, as an offensive player, like, you can't touch me. You can't hit me coming across the middle. They're pretty much taking big hits out of the game, so I don't have to worry about getting blown up. The hip drop tackle specifically benefits the tight end position more than any other position, because majority of those hip drop tackles come from somebody tackling from behind, and it's a bigger body, and that's what they have to do is drop the weight and take their legs out to get that bigger body down. So now as a tight end, you have to pretty much tackle me up high because you can't hip drop now. So at the tight end, I love it because it's going to be very tough to bring down tight ends in the open field now. As an offensive player, I love it because all these rules are making it very easy for offensive players. As a fan of the game, and if I was on the defensive side of the ball, I don't like all of these rule changes. Man, like you said, there's no big hits. You take the hip drop tackle out of it. At some point, it's like, man, what do you want the defense to do? They already can't hit the quarterback, so it's like y'all are taking so many aspects out of the game in regards to the physicality of it. Like, it's going to be impossible to play defense here in 5 or 10 years. So,
yeah. For sure. Couple questions before we head out. Since you're a tight end, I always ask my interviews for the players in the position groups. Can I get your top 5 tight ends in the league currently in the NFL?
Ooh, you put me on the spot. Top 5 in order, or just top 5 period?
No order.
No order. I put Kelsey up there, of course. Kelsey's in there. I got Kittle. In there. Let me think. I'm going off this past season. I would put Hawkinson in there. I think he had a really good year last year. I'd put Hawkinson in there. Like I said, I'm going based off last year. I would make sure I'm not missing nobody. I would put Sam Laporta in there.
Yeah.
Young bull. I put Sam Laporta in there and then 5. Mark Andrews was kind of hurt. Was hurt a good bit last year. That Waller fell off last year. I might put Njoku in there at 5 right now. I hope I'm not missing anybody. But yeah. I think Njoku had a good year last year. I really hope I'm not missing nobody, obvious.
Yeah, for sure. I don't think, based off last season, I'm not really tripping about
that. That's not a bad 5 at all.
Yeah, that's not a bad 5 at all. Yes, it's not at all. You go ahead, G.
I think I pretty much.
Oh, you think you're good? You think? Because I can. Because I can. All right. Okay. So since you did current, can I get yours all time now? Top 5 tight ends all time? No order.
Top 5 all time.
No order. No order.
No order. Top 5 tight ends all time. No order. Give me Gronk, and I'll go ahead and put him at number 1. Gronk's at number 1.
Okay.
I would put. I'm gonna do order for you. I'm gonna do 1 as Gronk. I'm gonna do 1A and 1B. Tony Gonzalez and Travis Kelce.
Okay.
Because Kelsey's more of a receiving tight end. Like I said, if you put him in the offense that Gronk was in, I don't think he can. He's not that good in the box with his hand in the ground and run game and all that stuff. Gronk was good at every single thing across the board. So 1A, 1B, Tony G, and Kelsey.
Okay.
At 3, I would put. Ooh. 3, I would put. I think I'm gonna go with Tony. Not with Antonio Gates. I might go Antonio Gates 3. 4 at 4. I'm going. Now you put me on the spot. Because I'm sitting there. I really hope I'm not missing nobody. But
nah, it's a good list so far.
At 4, I might put. Man, at 4, I might put Shay Sharp. I might put Uncle Shay in there at 4.
Okay.
And then at 5, I don't even know. There's a lot of guys you could put at 5. I'll put this. I'm gonna put Greg Olsen in there at 5. Greg Olsen had the most. I think he still has the record right now for the most 1,000-yard receiving yard seasons in a row for a tight end. You know, I think we're looking at consistency for a tight end. We're looking at consistency for.
He might have it.
Yeah.
I know Kelsey was close to getting there, but I don't know if he's.
I think he needs one more. I think if he gets it this year, I think he'll beat it.
Okay, and then last question before we head out. Gotta ask this, just from your perspective, because you're the son of him. You think your dad's the greatest receiver of all time?
For sure.
Okay.
Sure. I mean, yeah, I think that. I mean, I think I'm not too big on. So my biggest thing with the argument that I always have between him and Rice, him and Jerry, is Jerry played his whole career with 2 of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. So I think, and he got drafted that year. I think that the 49ers, the year that he got drafted to them, they were for sure in the playoffs, but they either made the NFC Championship game or they were in the Super Bowl. I don't know. They were a really good team. He got drafted to a really good team, a really good organization, and one of the best quarterbacks of all time. And then once he left, the second quarterback he had was one of the greatest of all times. So I think, my pops, if you look at the one seat, the time that he had Brady, I mean, the seasons that they had and the numbers that they put up speak for themselves. So, man, if you gave him Tom Brady for half of his career and then gave him Aaron Rodgers for the other half of his career, I think my pop's numbers would be crazy. But if we're going off the eye test and we're going off of his ability and stuff like that, I put my pops up there with the best. Man, one thing that I never knew, my pops told me this. I never knew this. Cover 4 defense was made to stop my pops. I never knew that. Because the cover 4 defense by itself was made to stop Randy Moss. My pops told me that. He was like, man, in 2000s, in the 1998, he was like, man, they weren't dropping 4 people deep. That was unheard of back then. They weren't dropping 4 people deep. So then they had to start, figuring out ways to stop Randy. So then they started dropping 4 deep, and that's how the cover 4 was invented. So, I mean, I'm a little biased, but of course, I say pops. I'm rolling with pops.
Yeah, for sure, but I ain't tripping.
Making a whole defense just to stop you is crazy.
The facts. Well, look, Dad, I appreciate you coming out. G, of course, I appreciate you coming out. I appreciate everybody in the chat came out, supported. Make sure I like, sub. I think we like 15 away from 1,000. We just started in September. We're growing fast. We're gonna be right back here. In 3-4 hours for the draft? 3.5 hours. Gonna be streaming the draft all day. Like I said, Dad, I really appreciate you coming out. And yeah, make sure I like, sub, tap in with all the stuff I got going on my channel. Yeah, we out. Peace.
Later.
Yes, sir.